Okay, let's unpack this. We have received an epic stack of source material today, but it's not the usual complex geopolitical breakdown or, a deep philosophical text.
Not at all.
Instead, what we have here are the transcripts and notes from, well, what might be the most intensely competitive, insanely hyper-specific trivia gauntlet I have ever seen.
And all for a single fictional universe. We're talking about the wizarding world of Harry Potter.
Exactly. And what's fascinating here, what really jumps out, is that we aren't dealing with casual fandom. This isn't about just summarizing the plot.
No, this is so far beyond that. We are diving into material that tests the absolute limits of memory. It demands recall not just of major events, but of things like, well, the precise color of Aunt Petunia's dress.
Or the exact floor number of Uncle Vernon's office.
Right. Or the verbatim phrasing of a quote that someone said for half a second in a 7-book saga.
Oh.
It's intense.
And the initial scores prove this is not amateur hour. The internal competition, it reveals one contestant leading with 288.5 points.
And the closest competitor is trailing at 253.
That gap, that score, it immediately tells you just how brutal the difficulty of the minutiae we're about to explore really is. So our mission today is to act as your expert guides through this trivia landscape. We want to show you not just the facts, but the aha moment, the surprising contradiction.
And the deeper world-building insights that really only this level of specificity can reveal. Because this extreme knowledge of the micro details is surprisingly essential.
How so?
Well, sometimes a small overlooked fact like the location of a specific window in Ask reveals the author's dedication to creating a truly realized three-dimensional world.
Okay, so it's about depth.
Exact. But other times, a minor inconsistency like, as we'll see, the exact placement of a haunted bathroom can expose a fundamental macro-level challenge or even a flaw in the narrative's own structure.
So we're covering pure book canon, movie-specific details.
And critically, the Quizmaster's own internal fan canon, which is derived from their own video theories. That's a whole other layer.
We're looking for those moments where you, the listener, realize you know the plot, sure, but you don't really know the universe. So let's jump straight into the very foundation of the series, the geography of Hogwarts, where architectural precision, I think it's fair to say, often dissolves into pure confusion.
We're going to begin with the most iconic location, the Great Hall. I mean, this is a scene every reader...
Of course. It's the first real wow moment of magic.
Right. And the trivia demanded to know what the very first thing Harry notices when he walks into the Great Hall for the first time. Stone.
Okay.
Now, as a reader, my memory, it immediately goes to the hundreds of floating candles, or maybe the huge crowd, or certainly the 4 long house tables.
Yeah.
That's where the focus should be.
That's the logical guess. And that logic is precisely what this level of trivia is designed to defeat. If you were a normal 11-year-old walking into a colossal room full of your peers and, hundreds of plates of food,
your eyes would go straight to the familiar. Exactly. You'd seek out familiar anchors. The tables, the food, the other students, that's human nature.
But that is not the answer. The hyper-specific canon answer is the enchanted ceiling.
Specifically, the star-enchanted ceiling, reflecting the night sky outside.
And this is where that micro detail, as you said, reveals a macro-narrative choice. The author deliberately made the choice to guide Harry's gaze upward.
Why, though?
Because it instantly establishes the sheer mind-bending power of magic. It's overriding mundane reality from the very first second.
Ah, that makes perfect sense. The 4 long tables, the feast, the crowd, those things belong to any boarding school. You could find that in a non-magical book.
Precisely. But the ceiling that mirrors the heavens, that immediately tells the reader and Harry himself that this is not normal.
It prioritizes the fantastical over the human, setting the tone for the entire magical experience from that very first glance.
It's a brilliant literary technique, but it's an absolute trap for a trivia competitor who is relying on, natural observation.
Total trap.
Okay, so that was an example of intentional world build. Now we have to move from narrative choice to genuine textual chaos, specifically regarding the most infamous girls' bathroom in fiction.
Moaning Myrtle's location.
Yes, and the first major threat of the Chamber of Secrets.
Ah, the great floor debate. I knew we'd get here. The sources spent a considerable amount of time debating this, and for good reason. The quiz focused on reconciling a geographical inconsistency that has, it's puzzled fans for decades.
It really has. So the question is, where exactly is Myrtle's bathroom located?
Okay, let's lay out the evidence. The facts we have are conflicting, to say the least.
Let's start with Hermione's declaration. She explicitly states that Myrtle haunts one of the toilets in the girls' bathroom on the first floor.
Okay, seems clear enough. Quote, first got it.
But then, when the first terrifying message appears, the Chamber of Secrets has been opened, that bloody writing is explicitly stated to be found in the second floor corridor.
And it says it's located right next to a girl's bath.
Right next to it. So how could it be both? And to compound the confusion, earlier in that same sequence, Harry's described as sprinting up the marble staircase to reach the first floor shortly before the end.
So that means the marble staircase leads to the first floor. It establishes a base.
It does. So how can the most critical piece of evidence be on the second floor, directly next to Myrtle's first floor bath? It doesn't add up.
I feel like we're already breaking the books just by reading this out loud.
We are. The source material, naturally, it tries to reconcile this. It brings up the inevitable UK versus US floor naming debate.
The classic defense mechanism.
It is. It's the standard attempt to solve this kind of fantasy geography confusion.
Right, because in the UK, the entry level is the ground floor, and the next level up is the first. In the US, the entry level is the first floor.
And the books generally follow the UK convention. So the layout should be ground, then first, then second.
Which means if Myrtle's bathroom is on the first floor, the scene of the crime should also be on the first floor, not the second. The problem remains.
So we have a major, undeniable inconsistency. Either the author briefly just swapped the floor numbers, or maybe there are two girls' bathrooms in proximity that Myrtle somehow haunts.
Or maybe she haunts the entire staircase area. That seems unlikely.
Here's my common sense counter. If the bloody writing was found next to the second floor bathroom, and that bathroom was, the site of an attack, maybe Myrtle decided to haunt the first floor one because the second floor was temporarily blocked off as she was traumatized.
That's a wonderful fanfic. It really is. But the core issue remains that the narrative demands the writing be next to the chamber. The chamber entrance is in her bathroom.
True.
The most compelling fan theory that emerged from analyzing this, and it's the one that allows these competitive quiz masks, is the idea that Hogwarts architecture is magic.
The castle changes on its own.
Exactly. Given that Hogwarts is described as having powerful, sentient magic that actively changes its layout, perhaps the simple designation of first or second floor is just unreliable.
So maybe the entire section shifts for narrative convenience. It was the first floor when Hermione said it, but it was the second floor when Harry found the writing.
Reflecting the castle actively hiding its secrets. That's the best in-universe
The ultimate answer for the quiz, however, relies on remembering the textual placement of the writing, which is second floor court, and just accepting that contradiction as a fixed piece of difficult lore.
And that really underscores the difference between knowing the story and mastering the source material. It forces you to embrace the fact that sometimes, even in a perfectly constructed fictional world, there are minor textual errors that you just have to memorize as fact, even if they make no spatial sense.
Okay, moving on to more obscure Hogwarts landmarks details that truly prove you've done the reading, not just watched the movies. The first example, the smuggling of Norbert the Dragon.
Norbert.
You need to identify the exact tower used for this illegal operation.
This is a tricky one because the action happens so quickly, and there are so many towers at Hogwarts.
There are. The correct answer is the Astronomy Tower,
which is commonly confused with the Owlery, or sometimes even the North Tower. But the Astronomy Tower makes sense. It's the highest point of the castle, the designated spot for late-night observation,
making it narratively logical for an out-of-the-way, high-altitude smuggling operation.
And the precision here is key, because being caught there is what leads to their detention in the Forbidden.
Right. It all connects.
Absolutely. Okay, the next detail is so specific, it's almost comical. The statue near the door to the prefect's bath, the one you need to act with the password, Pine Fresh.
Oh, I love this one. The required answer is Boris the Bewildered.
And this is where the transcript notes show the hosts just descending into humorous chaos. They were cycling through every alliterative name they could remember.
Like Barnabas the Barmaid.
Barnabas the Barmaid, Bridget the Blue, Bartholomew the Brave. They were just throwing names out there before finally landing on Boris.
And that's the beauty of this level of trivia. It's not just the name Boris, but the modifier. Bewildered.
What does that even mean? It speaks volumes about the whimsy of Hogwarts. Why would the most powerful magical school have a statue of a guy whose defining characteristic is confusion standing guard next to a luxury bath? It's absurd.
It adds depth and character to the mundane details of the castle. It's an easily overlooked detail. It tells a small, silly story about the history of the school's inhabitants. Let's move to the most hyper-specific geographical marker in the entire source staff. This one might prove the author truly mapped this world out, even if she occasionally mixed up the floors.
Okay, I'm ready.
The Azkaban cell D. Where exactly was Sirius Black held, awaiting the Dementors in Prisoner of Azkaban?
This piece of minutia is truly astonishing. 7th floor, 13th window from the right.
I had to pause there. The 13th window from the right. That is not plot-critical information.
Yeah.
It serves no narrative purpose other than existing as an extremely precise geographical marker. The host in the source material even asks, why did Rowling bother writing?
And that's the crucial discussion. Why include it? I think it's because a truly immersive fantasy world cannot feel like a backdrop. It has to feel real and mappable.
Oh, it grounds it.
It grounds the fantastical element, the wizard prison of Azkaban, in a precise physical location. By providing these shockingly specific, non-essential details, the author implicitly promises you, the reader, this world is more complete than you realize.
And for the devoted fan trying to master this stuff, pulling that number from memory is the ultimate testament to total immersion.
Exactly. You couldn't guess 13th window from the right. You either know it or you don't. That detail alone could destroy an entire trivia.
Let's transition now to magical objects and the small, easily overlooked world-building fact. We'll start again with a foundational piece of magic, the invisibility cloak.
The first Deathly Hallow Harry ever touches.
Right, which he receives on Christmas morning in Sorcerer's Stone. But to get this right, you need to remember the precise sequence of gifts opened before the cloak appeared.
Oh, this is good, because it's the narrative contrast that makes the sequence so important.
What comes first?
First, Harry opens the gift from the Dursley, a 50-pence piece.
This detail is just perfect. It's the absolute pinnacle of Muggle, non-magical disappointment, and, frankly, lack of effort. It sets the baseline for the entire emotional exchange at absolute zero.
Total indifference. Following that immediately is a gift from Hag, a wooden...
Which is well-meaning. It's warm, but it's still distinctly non-magical and relatively mundane.
It's only after these two distinctly normal, underwhelming items that he receives the cloak, a true Deathly Hallow, which just explodes the moment into profound wonder.
And the genius of the trivia here is that it also requires you to remember the item that arrived immediately after the cloak, the one that brings Harry crashing back down to reality.
Yes, the final item mentioned in the sequence is the Weasley sweater.
The classic.
And it highlights the shift in his emotional state. He went from absolute Muggle disappointment through the peak of magical wonder and then landed right back in the comforting, yet decidedly less rare, domesticity of a hand-knitted jumper.
That narrative sequencing just emphasizes the profound significance of the cloak's arrival by framing it perfectly between the mundane and the familial.
Beautifully put.
Okay, now for a deep cut into the school's administration and bureaucracy. Argus Filch's office. It's filled with confiscated goods. What was the exact description written on the box? Housing the prohibited items.
Ooh, this is a wording one. The official precise phrase was confiscated and highly dangerous.
That one word, highly, is the entire point. The sources noted that a contestant guessed extremely dangerous.
And they lost the point.
They lost the point. That difference between highly and extremely cost them. It's remarkable that the quizmasters care about that single adverb.
It just underscores the precision required in verbatim recall when you're dealing with text-based trivia. Filch, as a petty bureaucrat, would ensure his inventory labels were exactly correct and official sound. If it said highly, it wasn't extreme.
So the quiz isn't testing comprehension. It's testing the fidelity of your internal memory archives against the primary source.
Exactly.
All right, moving to magical incident. When Harry fell off his broom during the Quidditch match in Prisoner of Azkaban, what spell did Dumbledore allegedly use to slow his descent?
The standard incantation that's attributed to Dumbledore's quick-thinking rescue was Arresto Momentum.
I have to challenge that, though. The hosts themselves noted a crucial piece of lore. Dumbledore often uses wordless or wandless magic. He's arguably the most powerful wizard alive at that point.
So why would he waste time on the incantation?
Exactly. For the average fan, this spell is a bit of a red herring.
That's a great challenge. I think the reason the spell is mentioned at all is often attributed to the necessity of, teaching it or documenting it later, even if Dumbledore didn't explicitly shout the word. The text suggests the effect was that of Arresto Momentum.
So it's a point of contention.
It is, between those who rely on technical detail and those who rely on narrative. Furthermore, the sources brought up the classic movie versus book canon clash here. They noted that Lumos Maxima, which is often used in the film adaptations for sudden bursts of light or energy,
is entirely a movie invention.
Totally. It does not appear in the books in this context at all. This just highlights the constant battle the serious fan faces in navigating two similar but often contradictory canons.
Let's move to a visual detail that is absolutely absurd to memorize. Hagrid's tie.
Oh, wow.
What was the pattern on Hagrid's tie when he was seen skipping rock?
This is truly fringe knowledge. It was described as yellow with red-yellow polka dot.
That is just why. Why does the author include that level of fashion detail for a moment that probably lasts 2 seconds on screen and maybe 2 sentences in the book?
Because it humanizes him. Hagrid is this half-giant dealing with incredible magical creatures, but by giving him a specific, somewhat garish, highly detailed tie, he becomes more than just a big guy.
He becomes a person.
A person with slightly questionable taste who engages in mundane activities like skipping rock. It adds texture. If you miss it, you miss that small piece of character. For the Quizmaster, it's the perfect obscurity test.
Okay, let's talk terminology, currency, and the Muggle Wizard divide. We'll start with the Muggle Prime Minister's internal, highly specific misspelling of the sport Quidditch.
This is one of my favorite small details in the entire series. The term he misspells in his head is Kwiddich.
It's a masterstroke of world building. It perfectly encapsulates the complete bewilderment of the Muggle world trying to process this fantastic information.
He hears Quidditch, but filters it through this highly bureaucratic, phonetic, almost military-sounding lens. Kwiddich.
It's the ultimate human error. A civil servant trying to file a report on something that completely defies filing. It anchors the magical world firmly against the banality of the Muggle government structure.
It shows how the human brain tries to normalize the unnormalizable. The minister, forced to accept the existence of magic, instantly attempts to codify and misspell it, just to bring it down to his level of comprehension.
All right, next up. A joke purchase from Mundungus Fletcher. What price did Mundungus charge Fred and George for a bag of gnarl quills, which they did not actually need for their skeeving snack box?
The required answer is 6 sickles.
We need to put that into context for you. Wizarding currency runs galleons, sickles, and nuts. There are 17 sickles to a galleon. 6 sickles it's a negligible amount of money.
Pocket change. And that's precisely the point of the trivia. It's testing two things: your currency recall and your understanding of Mundungus's character. Gnarl quills are just porcupine needles, totally useless for the twins' sophisticated magical gag product.
And Mundungus, being the low-level opportunist he is, charged them a nominal fee, 6 sickles, just for the sheer joke of selling them something utterly useless.
It confirms that Mundungus is not just a fence. He's a petty trickster who operates at the very fringe of the economy.
Finally, let's talk Quidditch play-by-play. In the book's description of the Gryffindor versus Slytherin match in Sorcerer's Stone, who scores the first goal?
The opening points, the very first goal of the match, are scored by Angelina Johnson.
And this detail is so easily obscured because the entire narrative focus shifts immediately to Harry's dramatic seeker activity.
Right. The snitch, the near-death experience, the vomiting, all the high drama.
The sources mention that people often recall Lee Jordan's hilarious commentary in their heads, but they forget the actual play-by-play.
Exactly. Angelina Johnson often gets overlooked because her role is functional. She's a chaser. She's scoring goals. But the drama is with Harry. The trivia demands that you honor the chaser's effort, noting that the first score sets the initial celebratory momentum for Gryffindor before the true chaos begins.
Now we move to the characters themselves, the small details and specific quotes that define them, starting with the Muggles who launched Harry into the wizarding world, the Dursleys.
All right, let's start with, I think, peak trivia. The color of Aunt Petunia's dress the night the Masons, the prospective business partners for Vernon, were visiting.
An evening that ended spectacularly badly.
To say the least, the required precise color was salmon.
Salmon, not pink, not coral, salmon.
Now, this is where the source material provided an amazing insight into memory and how these obscure facts get lodged brain. The host admitted they only knew salmon because it was linked to a completely unrelated internal family joke about a cousin who was an addict.
Nate Pratt, I think they said.
Yeah.
Who drew a cartoon making fun of a house painted pink and was adamant that the correct color label was salmon.
That accidental, humorous anchor is the only reason that piece of fashion trivia was retrievable. It shows that for these competitive quizzes, you're not studying the text in isolation. You're building this massive cognitive map where external, often humorous associations become the key to unlocking the right.
The sheer banality of a salmon dress needed a separate, non-canonical trigger to be remembered. It's fast.
Continuing the Dursley trauma, when Aunt Marge is inflated like a hideous balloon, how many buttons pop off her blouse?
The answer is...
Why 3? It's not a symbolic number, it's not a magical number, but the physical description relies on that precision. It provides the perfect visual comment.
Right. Not 2, which might be too few, and not a dozen, which would be more of an explosion. 3 buttons popping off provides a sharp, physical, humiliating image that underscores the absurdity of the scene.
It's just perfect comedic timing in print.
And then Uncle Vernon's working life, anchoring him firmly in the mundane Muggle London. What floor was his office on at Grunning?
The answer is the 9th floor. The struggle in the quiz was palpable. There were failed guesses cycling between.
But the correct, utterly non-magical number is 9. This detail serves to contrast the normal, predictable world of Muggle business with the vertical, shifting chaos of Hogwarts. Vernon Dursley's world operates on floors 1 through 9 with fixed architecture.
While the wizarding world defies gravity and logic.
Let's shift to the beloved core characters and their family life. A brief domestic moment in the Burrow. Where exactly does Mrs. Weasley say Ginny's jumper is in Chamber of Secrets?
It's on the cat. That specific phrasing, on the cat, it just paints a perfect picture of Mrs. Weasley's exhausted state. Chaos reigns, but she retains this perfect, hyper-efficient knowledge of every misplaced item. Incredible.
It's a quick domestic moment that defines her entire managerial style.
It really does.
Okay, next, a truly memorable, if chaotic, piece of mail. The Howler delivery. What did Errol the Owl crash into when delivering the infamous Howler to Ron at the breakfast table?
He crashed into a plate of potato chips, or crisps, depending on which edition you're reading and which host.
And that debate is crucial, because are we to believe that the Weasleys at the Burrow are having potato chips or crisps, which are salty snacks for breakfast?
The hosts were debating whether it was just a translation oddity or a deliberate jarring. I leaned.
Me too. The fact that Errol crashes into something so distinctly snack-like at breakfast time is the humorous element the author, and it makes the memories. It's the unexpectedness of the object that the trivia is testing.
Now, for Ron's self-deprecating on it. While hunting Horcruxes in Deathly Hallows, how long does Ron estimate he and Harry would last without Hermione?
The precise number Ron offers is 2 days.
And that number is so fascinating. The sources show the hosts debating this as an awkwardly precise insult, but also a
How?
Well, if he said an hour, it would be too self-deprecating and dramatically untrue. If he said a week, it would be far too confident. Ron's practical estimate is 2 days, which shows his functional appreciation for her logistical and magical prowess.
It's an honest, slightly cynical assessment of his own reliance on her brain. It proves he knows their strengths and, more importantly, their weaknesses.
Perfectly said.
And poor Neville Longbottom. During the disastrous first defense against the dark arts lesson featuring the Cornish pixies, how are the pixies described as lifting Neville?
They lift him by his ears.
Ouch. That detail is crucial. Why his ears? It's a painful yet really juvenile form of humiliation that perfectly fits the chaos of that classroom scene.
And it ensures the visual is both memorable and slightly, even if it was terrifying for Neville. It's the kind of physical detail that makes you wince and remember.
We finish this section with quotes from some of the most insightful characters in the saga. Start with Kingsley Shacklebolt, who is attributed with the profound quote, "We're all human, aren't we? Every human life is worth the same and worth saving."
That is Kingsley Shacklebolt, and the context is essential. He said this during the Potter Watch broadcasts in Deathly Hallows.
This wasn't just a casual conversation.
Not at all. The importance of that quote cannot be overstated. It's a moment of moral clarity, humanism, and resistance amidst the darkest period of the war. He's broadcasting hope and equality, the core values of the Order of the Phoenix across the wizard.
Specifically countering the blood purity ideology preached by Voldemort's regime.
Exactly. It's not just a nice quote. It's a philosophical cornerstone of the resistance.
Finally, Professor McGonagall's memorable, highly specific description of what Gryffindor must not be at the Yule.
She demanded they must not be a babbling, bumbling band of baboons.
The sheer alliteration and specific combination of words make this unforgettably difficult trivia. You can't just guess that.
No way. It's vintage McGonagall. She's laying down the law, ensuring that Gryffindor doesn't besmirch its name by displaying a specific, linguistically complex type of buffoonery. The quiz isn't just testing the concept of a mess. It's testing the mass of her unique, severe rhetoric.
This last section is, in many ways, the ultimate test. We're moving away entirely from J.K. Rowling's canon and into the internal canon created by the quizmasters themselves in their incredibly popular videos.
Which is a whole other level.
It is. The sources included questions that force the participants to recall their own previous, highly analyzed theory. This is meta lore, and we are treating it as seriously as the books themselves.
This is a fascinating layer of fandom. Understanding the deep cuts of the source material is one. Mastering the critical analysis of the source material by the quizman other.
So where do we start?
We start by reevaluating obscure magical concepts, specifically thestral visibility and the invisibility cloak. The question asked about the host's theory on how one can see through the cloak, which is partly made from thestral hair.
And the theory posits that one can see through the cloak only by having seen death, capital D themselves, meaning by dying and returning.
The logic here is, well, it's impeccable, assuming the cloak is truly a deathly hallow. Thestrals are only visible to those who have witnessed death. The cloak is one of the 3 artifacts Death himself.
And Harry, who possesses the cloak, died in the forest and came back.
Exact. The theory ties the 3 elements together perfectly. The material of the cloak, thestral hair, the nature of the hallow death, and Harry's unique status as the master. The quiz demands you remember this particular and fills a canonical gap.
Okay, next, a deep cut into Chamber of Secrets with the hosts claim from their video, Voldemort's huge mistake. The theory posited what the basilisk truly meant to rip, tear, and kill.
The hosts claimed the true intended target of the basilisk's violent desire to rip and tear was Moaning Myrtle's diary, the Horcrux itself.
Why is this theory compelling enough to become canon for the Quizmaster?
Well, because the basilisk is constantly described so violently, it rips, it tears, it hunts, yet every single living creature it encounters, aside from Myrtle initially, is merely petrified, not torn apart.
So its actions don't match its description.
Exact. The only object that truly needed to be destroyed to stop Voldemort's plot, and the only object that could be ripped and torn in that scenario, was the diary. The theory adds a layer of depth to the chamber's purpose. It suggests the creature's innate aggression was meant to be focused on the Horcrux rather than the...
Fulfilling its violent nature against the key threat. I like that.
Me too.
And the origin of a key magical artifact. Mad-Eye Moody's Eye. The host's own video claimed who created.
The answer they settled on after, significant debate and speculation was Albus Dumbledore.
And we need to address the rejected theory because they were also mentioned in the source material. Why Dumbledore?
He was Moody's trusted friend, the most powerful enchanter we know of, and capable of creating such a complex device. It just makes the most sense. The rejected theory they discussed previously was that it might have been Grindelwald.
Which is a cool idea.
It is a cool idea, but the practicality of Dumbledore creating it for Moody, while both were active in the Order, won out in their internal lore. It speaks to Dumbledore's preparedness for war, even at the level of specific prosthetic.
Okay, let's look at characters again. Specifically, Neville Longbottom. What was the host's claimed Patronus for Neville in one of their speculative videos?
A lion.
Which is a bit on the nose, isn't it?
It is, but the expert in the source material noted that Neville is likely more neutral good in alignment, and the choice of the lion is purely symbolic. It emphasizes his eventual Gryffindor bravery, his destiny as a hero, and the one who finally defeats Nagini.
So it's a symbolic choice over a practical one. Like, why not a toad, for instance, given Trevor's importance?
Because the Patronus represents his highest self, not his nervous past. The lion fits the narrative arc they craft.
Fair enough. Now, for Luna Lovegood, peculiar ailment, she often mentions things like the lurgy, which seem entirely unverified. The Quizmasters compared Luna's lurgy ailment to a specific, unexplained, real-world phenomenon.
They likened it to the yips.
The yips, like in sports.
Exactly. An inexplicable athletic performance block where an athlete suddenly loses the ability to perform basic known skills under pressure. It's a surprisingly clever comparison.
Why is this a fitting comparison for Luna?
Because Luna, despite her oddity, is often insightful and capable, but her social or functional performance is often blocked by these unverified nebulous ailments like the lurgy. It takes a strange, non-magical ailment, grounds it in real-world psychology.
Suggesting that sometimes what appears magical is just a psychological barrier that the wizards haven't bothered to categorize properly.
Precise.
And what was the video title they used for the Dueling Club end-of-year tournament? The one that became fixed internal lore for the quiz participants.
The Duel Ball. Short, punchy, memorable, and reflective of the host's branding style. It's a key piece of their internal nomenclature.
We must now address the confusing history left. There was a question that corrected a long-held misconception from the host's own videos regarding the historian Florian Fortescue.
Oh, this one is a nested trivia trap.
It really is. What was Florian actually helping Harry write an essay on?
Florian Fortescue was helping Harry write his essay on which burnings in the 14th century was completely pointless.
The sources highlight that the hosts themselves routinely misremembered this fact in their video. They confused it with the Goblin Rebellion essay from Goblet of Fire.
And they got the century wrong. They kept saying 17th instead of 14th. The fact that the essay was about the pointlessness of the historical persecution and the exact century are what the quiz is testing. Even experts struggle to maintain chronological and thematic accuracy across higher 7-book saga.
The final meta-analysis piece involves character alignment. In their video, Why Umbridge is the Worst Kind of Evil, whom did the hosts choose for the true neutral character on the alignment chart?
They originally chose Cedric Diggory. However, the source material notes they now argue Cedric is more neutral good.
Okay, so why the initial choice of Cedric and why the correct?
The initial choice stemmed from Cedric's balanced approach in Goblet of Fire. He was fair, he was morally sound, but he wasn't necessarily driven by the heroic idealism of Harry or the political ideology of Hermione. He was a good sportsman who happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Which sounds pretty neutral.
It does. But the correction to neutral good acknowledges that his inherent fairness and his willingness to share the credit that moves him beyond true neutrality. He has a good heart.
The source material also discussed other potential true neutral characters. Who were they?
Characters who act purely on self-interest or functional role, like Ollivander, who is concerned only with his craft, or Crumb, who is concerned only with Quidditch and finding a girl. Those characters operate outside the major moral axis of good versus evil, making them much better candidates for true neutrality than Cedric.
Good point. Okay, finally, wrapping up with two key character deep cuts. There was a highly specific quote used by Aunt Marge to describe James Potter, which the host mistakenly attributed to Snape during the quiz.
And the correct attribution is the entire point. The quote, which just defines Marge's nasty classism, is, "As I expected, a no account, good for nothing, lazy scrounger."
This is so crucial. Snape's insults were bitter, they were personal, and they were aimed at specific flaws or memories.
Marge's insult is just generic classist bile. It's based purely on prejudice against someone she deemed beneath the dirt. It highlights her deep-seated, non-magical prejudice against Harry's father, proving just how toxic the Dursley household was started.
And a heartwarming detail about Luna Lovegood's inherent kindness that made Dobby say, "I like her very much."
The moment that seals Dobby's affection is when Luna, upon encountering him, calls him Sir. Specifically, she says, "Whenever you're ready, sir."
That small, spontaneous gesture of respect
Is everything. It's what endeared Dobby to her. Dobby has spent his life being treated as a possession, referred to as an object or a lesser being. And Luna, the girl most often dismissed by everyone else, is the one who recognized his inherent dignity and offered him a term of respect reserved.
It encapsulates her unique ability to recognize the value in creatures and individuals often dismissed by mainstream society. It is the perfect, small, profound moment to end on. Hashtag tag out Trouter.
You know, if we connect this staggering volume of detail to the bigger picture, what we've reviewed today is an extraordinary look into the complexity and dedication required by modern competitive fandom.
It really is. We navigated from the utterly specific, like the 13th window from the right in Azkaban, a detail demanding total immersion, to the analytical and contradictory.
Like the shifting floor plans of Hogwarts, yeah. And then finally to the creation of meta lore and fan canon, which requires knowledge of a third, equally dense layer of...
The depth of these microscopic details is precisely what gives the wizarding world its longevity and its endless capacity for exploration. It's no longer just a set of books. It's a universe held together by thousands of these tiny, interconnected, and highly memorable facts.
And if you can master the price Mundungus Fletcher charged for Gnarl Quills, the color of Petunia's dress, and the logic behind Neville's theoretical Patronus,
you have achieved a mastery far beyond simply knowing the plot.
So what does this all mean? We leave you with one final provocative thought that builds directly on the geographical and textual inconsistency.
Okay, let's hear it.
The sources revealed a fundamental narrative-breaking inconsistency in Hogwarts geography regarding the Chamber of Secrets and that whole first floor versus second. Given that Hogwarts is described as a living structure, governed by powerful sentient magic that actively changes its layout and purpose, does this spatial inconsistency mean the castle itself is unstable? Or is it actively, consciously hiding its true layout from those who would master?
Or is it merely an artifact of translation and human recollection within the fictional narrative?
That's the question.
Ponder that the next time you traverse a staircase that might just be trying to mess with you. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.